Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Earth played harmless until the galaxy saw its true power. The central archives of the Galactic Council hummed with activity. Thousands of data streams flowed through the massive chamber like rivers of light. In the heart of this digital ocean sat Tayo, his six-fingered hands moving deftly across holographic controls. His silver skin reflected the blue glow of his workstation as he sighed, his eyes blinking horizontally across their protective membranes. Classification duty was tedious but necessary. The Council needed accurate threat assessments for all sentient species in the galaxy. Most primitive worlds would never reach the stars, but protocol demanded thoroughness. Tayo had been doing this job for 27 cycles, long enough to know which corners could be cut. System 3721, Planet Designation, Earth, he muttered, pulling up the holographic display. His thin lips moved silently as he read the current entry, Classification, Harmless. The three-dimensional image of Earth rotated before him, a small blue planet with large water bodies and scattered land masses. Tayo scrolled through the basic data: average gravity, narrow temperature ranges, carbon-based life forms dominated by biped mammals calling themselves humans. The current classification seemed reasonable. Physical scans showed that humans possessed modest strength, nothing like the stone crushers of Mary or the hydraulic muscle of the Tachi. Their planetary governance consisted of nearly 200 separate nations, constantly arguing. Their space technology barely reached their single moon, and most standing, they spent considerable resources fighting each other over ideology, resources, and territory. Harmless fit the standard metrics perfectly. Tayo was about to confirm the classification when Senior Archist Doan's gravity platform hung nearby. Doan's age-spotted skin hung loose on his frame, but his 4 eyes missed nothing, especially workplace inefficiency. Nearly finished with the updates, Doan asked without bothering to fully stop his platform, Tayo. Tayo straightened. Almost complete, Senior Archist, he replied. However, I'm noticing something unusual about this Earth file. Tayo gestured to the data streams, highlighting specific points. Their technological development rate is concerning. Doan barely glanced at the display. Another backwater planet. Maintain the classification and move on. I need the Orin sector review by midday. The gravity platform drifted away, leaving Tayo alone with his doubts. Protocol required a simple update and approval, but something nagged at him. He expanded the historical data file, tracing the planet's technological timeline. What he saw made his breathing tubes constrict slightly. Most species followed predictable development patterns. The gap between discovering powered flight and reaching orbit typically took 15 to 20 generations. Humans had done it in one. They went from primitive computing machines to worldwide information networks in mere decades. Their weapons technology evolved at a particularly alarming rate, from basic explosive devices to planet-killing capabilities in less than a century. Tayo pulled up the adaptation metrics. Most species specialized to their environments. Humans didn't adapt to their environment, they adapted their environment to themselves. In cold regions, they built heating systems, in hot areas, cooling technology. They thrived in deserts, jungles, mountains, and frozen wastelands through technology rather than evolution. Most concerning was their approach to technology itself. When the Vine developed medical nanobots, they spent generations perfecting healing applications. When humans conceptualized similar technology in their fiction, they immediately imagined weaponizing it. The same pattern repeated across virtually all technological categories. This can't be right, Tayo whispered. He checked the cultural assessment. Humans exhibited extreme competitive drive, territorial expansion tendencies, and remarkable resource consumption, yet they also showed unusual creativity, problem-solving abilities, and, most worryingly, unpredictable innovation patterns. Tayo's finger hovered over the classification options. Protocol dictated following the established metrics, but those metrics assumed standard development patterns. Earth didn't fit the standard model. He opened the communication channel to the Classification Review Board. Request elevated review for System 3721, Planet Designation, Earth. Recommend provisional reclassification to potentially concerning, pending full assessment. The system processed for several moments before flashing a response. REQ. D, IN, E, D, C for RE, SSI, C8 pollen, maintain QNTI designation. Tayo frowned. He tried again, adding more detailed justification and highlighting specific anomalies in human development patterns. The response came back even faster. REQ DADE, System 3721 outside priority zones. Maintain QNT designation. Of course, Earth occupied an unremarkable spiral arm in a standard galaxy, far from major trade routes or strategic territories. The Classification Review Board wouldn't waste resources on a detailed assessment of such a distant, seemingly insignificant world. Tayo glanced over his shoulder. Senior Archist Doan was busy reprimanding the junior classifier across the chamber. Taking advantage of the moment, Tayo attached a personal note to the Earth file, something that wasn't strictly against protocol but certainly wasn't encouraged for classifiers. Note, standard metrics may not apply. Species shows unprecedented adaptation speed and a technological acceleration curve. Recommend caution in direct engagement. It wasn't much, but perhaps a future classifier would take note. Tayo hesitated one final moment before confirming Earth's official designation, Harmless. His work terminal chimed, indicating the completed classification. The system immediately assigned him the next world for review. Tayo sighed and moved on. Pushing thoughts of Earth aside, 3 levels above the classification chamber in the Strategic Assessment Division, a priority alert briefly flashed on a monitoring screen. A complex algorithm had flagged the unusual time Tayo had spent on a single classification. The system automatically saved a copy of the Earth file for secondary review. The file would sit in the secondary review queue for nearly 7 years before anyone looked at it again. By then, humans would have already reverse-engineered the propulsion system from a crashed scout ship, and the first unofficial contact would be imminent. By the time the Galactic Council officially recognized Earth as anything but harmless, humanity would already be spreading among the stars. The Council vessel, Peaceful Emissary, slipped into Earth orbit silently, its advanced cloaking systems ensuring that no human detection systems would notice their arrival. Ambassador Zhou stood on the observation deck, watching the blue-white planet rotate slowly beneath them. Her pale blue skin shimmered slightly under the ship's lights as she adjusted her translation implant with slender fingers. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she said to no one in particular. The diplomatic team assembled behind her, 8 specialists chosen for this historic first contact. According to protocol, they represented the minimum necessary delegation for a Class 3, harmless civilization. Final briefing in 10 minutes, Zhu announced in the briefing room, turning to the FACE team. "We make planet fall at the designated coordinates in 3 hours. In the briefing room, Zhu reviewed the first contact protocols one last time. Her assistant projected the official council classification as she spoke: Earth, Class 3 civilization, designation, harmless, limited space capability, fragmented governmental systems, concerning military tendencies, but minimal threat potential beyond their atmosphere. Security Officer M shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Unlike the others with their diplomatic robes, he wore the fitted gray uniform of Council security. His broad shoulders and the small scar across his left eye marked him as a veteran of border conflicts. "Ambassador," he said in a low, measured voice, "I've reviewed the briefing materials. The standard security protocols seem insufficient based on what we know about human behavior patterns." Zhu frowned slightly. "Explain." "Their history is unusually violent. They've developed weapons specifically designed to kill their own kind. Most species develop defensive capabilities against predators, but humans weaponize everything." M pulled up several historical images on the display. Even their earliest tools doubled as weapons. Several diplomatic team members exchanged nervous glances. "Your concerns are noted," Joe said firmly, but we will follow protocol. The Council has designated Earth as harmless, and we will proceed accordingly. One security officer yourself and standard non-lethal containment measures only. Mindy's expression remained neutral, but his posture stiffened as she added, as you wish, Ambassador. The landing craft descended through Earth's atmosphere. 12 hours later, its trajectory was carefully calculated to appear over the designated landing zone without crossing sensitive military areas. They had sent the communication ahead, a simple message in the most common Earth languages explaining their peaceful intentions and requesting a meeting with planetary representatives. The humans had responded with surprising speed, directing them to a location called the United Nations headquarters in a place called New York City. Remember, Ju told her team as the craft settled onto the wide clearing prepared for their arrival, we represent the entire Galactic Council, dignity and restraint at all times. When the doors opened, Ju was momentarily overwhelmed. Thousands of humans stood behind barriers, their expressions ranging from awe to fear to excitement. Hundreds of small devices pointed at their ship, recording technology. According to their briefing, most surprising was the noise, a constant roar of voices and sounds. A small group of formally dressed humans approached, led by a stern-faced woman. Her dark hair was pulled back tightly, and she wore a blue outfit that seemed to indicate authority on behalf of the people of Earth. I welcome you, the woman said, her words translated perfectly through Ju's implant. I am Secretary General Hannah Park. Ju performed the formal greeting gesture of the Council. I am Ambassador Ju of the Galactic Council. We come in peace and friendship. The welcome ceremony was elaborate, speeches, music, symbolic exchanges of gifts. The humans had prepared extensively. Ju noted with approval that their behavior aligned perfectly with the eager but harmless classification. It was only during the private diplomatic sessions that Ju began feeling uneasy. We are primarily interested in cultural exchange, she explained to the panel of human representatives. Understanding your art, philosophy, and social structures. Secretary General Park smiled politely. Of course, cultural exchange is valuable, but surely technology exchange would benefit both our peoples. Your propulsion systems alone could revolutionize our space program. Another representative leaned forward. Our scientists have many questions about your energy generation capabilities. Such knowledge could help us solve our climate crisis and improve our defensive technologies, added a military officer near the back. In case there are less friendly spacefaring species, we should be concerned. Ju carefully explained the Council's non-interference policies regarding developing civilizations, but the humans were persistent. Each diplomatic session circled back to technology transfer, regardless of how she tried to redirect the conversation. On the third day, Mindy approached her in the privacy of the landing craft. Ambassador, security scans have detected unusual activity around our vessel perimeter. I recommend raising shields, that would appear hostile. Ju countered, perhaps they're simply curious. Curiosity doesn't explain the electromagnetic anomalies we're detecting, Mindy insisted. Someone is actively scanning our systems. Ju was considering this when the alarm sounded, a piercing tone indicating a security breach. MJ immediately pulled up the internal feed on a nearby screen. 6 humans in dark clothing had somehow entered the lower storage area, they were methodically examining the engine components. How did they get past the outer hull? Ju gasped. Unknown, MJ said grimly, activating his communication band. Security breach in Section 4. Deploying containment measures. Standard protocol for harmless species infiltration was simple, non-lethal containment fields to immobilize intruders until diplomatic resolution. MJ activated the system remotely, and on the screen shimmering barriers appeared around the intruders. What happened next defied all expectations. One of the humans produced a small device that emitted a specific frequency pulse. The containment field nearest them flickered and collapsed, the others quickly produced similar devices, disabling the remaining fields. Impossible, MJ whispered. Those containment systems use technology we've never shared with any Class 3 civilization. Evacuate now, Zhu ordered. Suddenly, understanding the danger, all personnel moved to emergency positions. The diplomatic team scrambled to their departure stations as MJ engaged secondary security measures. By the time they reached the bridge, the intruders had already retreated from the ship, taking nothing visible with them. But as the landing craft lifted off, ignoring the protests of the official human delegation, Zhu knew the damage was done. A quick system scan confirmed her fears. They had accessed the auxiliary propulsion schematics, the technical officer reported, and the quantum field stabilizer design. They didn't take physical components, but they definitely captured the data. Zhu's hands trembled slightly as she opened the emergency communication channel to the Council. This is Ambassador Zhu requesting priority transmission to Classification Authority. Earth requires immediate reclassification, I repeat, immediate reclassification. They have compromised Council technology and demonstrated capabilities far beyond their official designation. We are returning to orbit now. As the ship accelerated away from Earth, Zhu stared at the planet growing smaller beneath them. How have they neutralized Council containment fields? The technology required to counter those systems was centuries beyond Earth's official development stage, she realized with a chill. They had encountered Council technology before. Investigator Henan stepped off the transport vessel onto the Council's high orbital station, his dark uniform marking him as a member of the Elite Assessment Division. Unlike most Council species, with their colorful skin patterns or elaborate physical features, Henan preferred a plain appearance. His gray skin lacked decorative markings, and he kept his sensory tendrils tightly bound behind his head. In his profession, being forgettable was an advantage. Special Investigator, the station commander greeted him with a formal three-fingered salute. Your team has been assigned Level 8 clearance, all requested equipment has been prepared. Henan nodded. Once the Council urgency is noted, we begin immediately. The investigation chamber was a large circular room lined with data terminals. Three-dimensional projections of Earth hung in the center, rotating slowly to reveal different continents and ocean formations. 5 analysts were already at work, sorting through information streams. Jian, Henan's assistant for the past 7 years, approached with a data tablet. Unlike his superior, Ji Yun, who embraced his species' natural flamboyance with skin shifting through shades of blue and green with his emotions, Jian's expression was serious. Preliminary assessment is underway, Jian reported. The diplomatic incident has been fully documented, Henan said, studying the floating image of Earth. The Council wants answers, not documentation. This planet was classified as harmless for 200 years. Now, suddenly, they're neutralizing our containment fields and copying propulsion technology. I need to understand how. Where should we begin? Jian asked. Information. Henan said firmly, I need complete access to all human communications, cultural transmissions, and military exchanges, everything, with no filters. Jian's skin darkened slightly, a sign of concern. That would violate several privacy protocols for developing species. The Council has granted emergency override authorization. Code Omega 73. Henan moved to the central console. We need to understand how they think, for the next 14 days. Hun Zhen immersed himself in human data. His team intercepted and analyzed communications from every nation on Earth. They studied entertainment broadcasts, military transmissions, scientific publications, and personal communication networks called social media. They examined historical records, technological developments, and cultural patterns. On the 15th day, Hun Zhen called his team together. Report your findings, he ordered in a measured tone. Jian displayed his analysis first. Their creativity metrics are off the charts. Most species follow logical progression paths in technological development, humans make intuitive leaps. They've developed 16 different theoretical models for faster-than-light travel without actually achieving it yet. Theoretical models based on what data? Hun Zhen asked. That's the concerning part, Jian admitted. Most are based on fiction. They imagine technology before they can build it, then they work backward to make it real. Another analyst stepped forward, displaying military assessments. Their weapons are primitive by Council standards, nuclear, basic projectile, rudimentary energy weapons, and yet they disabled Ambassador Zhu's containment fields. Hun Zhen noted, yes, about that. The analyst looked uncomfortable. We found something strange. Humans have thousands of fictional accounts about alien encounters, many describing technologies similar to ours with surprising accuracy. It's as if they've been preparing for contact for generations before it happened. Hun Zhen considered this. What about their military capabilities, he asked. Limited compared to Council standards, Jian hesitated, his skin flickering to a deep purple. They've repeatedly demonstrated the ability to rapidly convert civilian technology for combat applications. Their entire industrial base can shift production focus in days, not years. He displayed historical images of Earth factories changing from civilian vehicles to war machines, and their historical response to external threats showed unprecedented unification capabilities. Nations that actively fight each other will immediately ally against a common enemy. One information specialist added, they call it the enemy of my enemy is my friend principle. It's deeply embedded in their strategic thinking. Hun Zhen processed this information silently. Something still didn't explain the technological leap, until he saw it, a small data point in the corner of the economic report. Show me trade vessel movements near Earth's system for the past year, he ordered. The display shifted to show ship movements. Dozens of non-Council vessels had entered Earth's solar system, most lingering just beyond detection range. Corporate vessels, muttered Ken, Value Trade Consortium, HIM Resource Acquisition, Blue Star Mercantile. He turned to his team. Several interstellar corporations have already established authorized trade routes with Earth, but that's illegal, Jian protested. No contact is permitted with Class 3 civilizations without Council approval, Hun Zhen said grimly. Council regulations mean little on the galactic frontier, especially when profit is involved. The investigation shifted focus. They traced illegal technology transfers, unauthorized meetings, and covert exchanges. The pattern became clear. Following the initial classification of Earth as harmless, corporate interests had identified humans as potentially valuable trading partners. Their competitive nature and resource-rich planet made them ideal customers for various goods. What the corporations hadn't anticipated was how quickly humans would adapt the technology they acquired. This is concerning, Hun Zhen said as he reviewed the latest findings. They're not just using the technology, they're improving it, modifying it in ways the original designers never considered. He prepared his final report with a growing sense of urgency. His recommendation was clear: immediate quarantine of Earth's solar system, suspension of all corporate trade licenses for the region, and reclassification of humans as a rapidly emerging threat. The Council would need to act quickly before the situation deteriorated further. But bureaucracy moved slowly. His report had to pass through 3 free review committees before reaching the High Council. Each day of delay allowed more unauthorized contact, more technology transfer, more human advancement. 6 weeks after Hun Zhen submitted his recommendation, the monitoring station at the edge of Earth's sector detected an unusual energy signature. The readings matched no known drive system in the Council database. A vessel of clearly human design appeared on long-range sensors. It executed a perfect faster-than-light jump using drive technology that appeared to be a hybrid of Council principles and something entirely new. How is this possible? Jian whispered as they watched the recording. Even with stolen technology, they shouldn't be able to achieve FTL travel for decades. Hun Zhen stared at the sensor readings. They didn't just copy the technology, they improved it. They stripped away the safety systems we consider essential, made it smaller, and rebuilt it for 30% more power. That same day, the Council finally approved the quarantine order for Earth's solar system. Emergency containment vessels were dispatched to establish the regulatory boundary. They arrived to find 3 more human ships already beyond the solar system, each heading in different directions toward inhabited council worlds. The quarantine had come 6 weeks too late. "Contact the High Council," Kin ordered quietly. "Tell them we're no longer conducting a threat assessment." M responded, "We're tracking an invasion." The Grand Council chamber was never meant to display fear. Its soaring crystal dome, intricate gravity fountains, and ancient living pillars had witnessed 10,000 years of measured debate and careful diplomacy, but today the chamber radiated tension. Counselor Sunu adjusted her ceremonial collar as she stared at the massive holographic display dominating the center of the room. Her scaled skin, normally a calm blue-green, had darkened to a troubled indigo. The three-dimensional map showed their local galactic sector with highlighted points marking human presence. "Too many points, far too many. This cannot be accurate," she said. "In just 18 months, they have established colonies on 7 previously unclaimed worlds." The map rotated slowly, revealing trade route outposts and mining operations, all bearing the distinctive red marker of human activity. "How is this possible?" she demanded. "Their technology should be generations behind ours. They were using chemical rockets less than a century ago." Admiral Dean moved forward. Unlike the political representatives with their flowing robes and ceremonial markings, the military leader wore a simple uniform with only rank insignia. His face bore the distinctive implants of the defense fleet, metal ridges along his jawline that connected to his nervous system for instantaneous ship control. "The data is verified, Counselor," he said flatly. "Multiple confirmation sources." He gestured to the display, zooming in on several ship designs. The basic hull structures are clearly of human origin, but they incorporated familiar technology in unfamiliar ways. "They don't innovate like we do." Dayton explained, "We perfect technology over decades before implementation. They improvise, take our standard FTL drive, strip it down, rebuild it with fewer safety redundancies, but 30% more power." "Dangerous," Suna noted, her head frills extending slightly in alarm. "Effective D uncorrected." She brought up another image, the wreckage of what appeared to be a military vessel of the Moran Collective. Humans would be easy prey when they encroached on that mining outpost in the Cygnus Reach. The Collective lost 3 warships before retreating. A murmur ran through the council chamber. The Moran were known for their aggressive expansion and military prowess. They routinely annexed territories from weaker species. "How did humans defeat Moran warships?" asked the representative from the Tan Concord, his gelatinous body pulsing with concern. Admiral Dean displayed the battle recordings. "They didn't match the Moran in firepower or shielding. Instead, they deployed what appeared to be modified mining charges, devices normally used to break up asteroids for resource extraction. They weaponized industrial equipment." He paused, letting the implications sink in. "And they did it within hours of the first Moran attack." Counselor Sunu felt her second heart begin beating, a physiological response to extreme stress. "Call an emergency session. All representatives must be present. No exceptions." The emergency council session convened 12 hours later. Representatives from all 94 member species crowded the chamber, many appearing via holographic projection from distant worlds. The apex species, the 7 oldest and most advanced civilizations, occupied the inner ring, their massive forms towered over the others. The session quickly descended into chaos. "Containment is the only answer," thundered the apex representative from the Darien Imperium, his voice amplified by ceremonial enhancements. "Establish a quarantine zone around all human territories. Any vessel attempting to cross will be considered hostile." "And who will enforce this quarantine?" demanded the representative from Valak, a mid-tier civilization. "Your fleets, while the rest of us suffer economic losses from severed trade routes." The Tan representative's translator conveyed their bubbling speech. "Perhaps we should consider technology embargoes instead, restrict specific advanced systems rather than total isolation." "Too late for that," Admiral Dean said quietly. They've already acquired most critical technologies through various channels. The Merchant Guild representative, a small Aven being with brilliant red plumage, chirped indignantly, the council cannot interfere with legitimate business interests. Many of our members have established profitable relationships with human enterprises. Councillor Sunan noticed 3 Trade Federation representatives quietly gathering their materials and exiting the chamber. She made a mental note to have their movements tracked. They were likely already negotiating separate agreements with human diplomats. Order, she called, activating the ceremonial tone that resonated through the chamber. We must approach this situation with clarity and unity. As if summoned by her words, the chamber doors opened and a human figure walked confidently to the center of the room, unlike most newly contacted species.